Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Hey, we're going to have a great show for you today. I have a couple of videos that I did on my morning show, the KPFT 90.1 FM today. But I want to tackle a lot of what we have here with the what seems to be the resolution of and it seems like that's what it's going to be. It seems like it's going to be the resolution of the case, right? Because it turns out that it seems like they have caught the person who actually, speculation still. We don't know for sure. Speculation still. They've likely found the person who perpetrated that act on the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. Anyway, let's get busy. Let's get started this way. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes. He's in the house from Kingwood, Texas. Welcome aboard, Maywood from Long Beach, California. Welcome aboard, AVQ from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome aboard, everybody else that I haven't yet touched. By the way, we are taking calls. If you want to call in and make your case as well, the number is 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747 if you want to call in and talk about what's going on. But I before I get there, I want to get more of the people on our YouTube channels and our other channels activated. So I'm going to start by just saying the following. The media continues in the most part to fail, but I must give some kudos to Katie Tur. I must give some kudos to Rokana. I must give some kudos to a few of them that are actually realizing the angst of the American population with what is actually occurring in our healthcare system, that not to give an excuse or not to mitigate that this guy pop a cap into a CEO. That's never the right thing to do, right? But again, remember that what he did was murder. But somehow in our system, in our electoral system, in our justice system, we don't consider what these CEOs do to people, not one person, but thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who actually are, as we would have to say, we can't quite say murdered by these CEOs, but at least can we call it maybe voluntary manslaughter? I'm interested to see in the chat. Those of you that are in the chat, whether you're on Twitter or you're on whatever, you can give it. You can, if you put a message in Twitter or a message in YouTube or wherever, I'll actually be able to see it. But I want to point out. I'm trying to look for that article right now that I wrote a few years ago. And notice what I said. I wrote a few years ago, and it had to do with manslaughter and politicians. Let's see if I can come up with that article, because it's important. I want to point out some things that I said. In fact, Tom Hartman, after I wrote the article, picked up the article and he did a program on it, and I appeared on his program when he did it. And in the article I said, let me go ahead and pull that up real quickly. There we go. I'm going to put that on the screen right now. And in that article I said, Political malpractice kills, and the perpetrator should be dealt with accordingly. Of course, what I meant when I said accordingly, I meant CEOs like this guy didn't belong in front of an investor conference saying how much he's making for the company, because we have to realize that he has made all that money by denying all those people justice, by denying not justice, but denying them health care. So in this thing, I said, we give a lot of lip service to holding politicians accountable, but how often do we actually hold them to account? The answer is rarely. But if we treated political malpractice like the violent crime that it is, we would likely get much better service from political servants, right? It may seem extreme to talk about political malpractice, but unless we ultimately decide to do so, innocent people will continue to die. The big news today isn't that a lot of people today will die because the health insurance company delayed their care or denied their care. I want you to hear this well. Thousands of people will die today because our politicians who are malpracticing politicians have ceded our health care to private insurance companies who profit from denying us services, and that's the reason many will die. So those perpetrators of that ill, those perpetrators of that sin will actually get off. They are directly responsible for the outcomes of thousands of Americans today. They'll pay no price. But what's his name? Luigi Mangione, correctly so, if he is found to be the ones who goes ahead and found guilty of this assassination, if you will rightfully go to jail to pay for his crime. But now Mike Cesek said, oh, his family is a dem, the people he's related to. Yeah, I would expect that. I would expect somebody that so cares about the destructive nature of our healthcare system to have been able to put his life, to destroy his life forever. This kid has destroyed his life forever. Yeah, I would expect that person to be, I'm not going to run away from saying this dude was a progressive, because that's what it seems like from what I saw on his Twitter account. I visited his Twitter account, etc., and saw some of the writings that he did, etc. Yeah, I'm sorry, he is. He was trying to make a statement. He shouldn't have done it that way. But again, he's going to pay. Every one of those CEOs at all of these insurance companies have blood on their hands. Are they going to pay? Of course not. Of course not. Because the way the laws are written, some people can be guilty of manslaughter based on what the definition of manslaughter is, whether involuntary or voluntary, and others just pay with their life. So, folks, I want it to be very, very clear that by no means is this program or any progressive that I know is there justifying what Luigi Mangione is purported to have done. But we do understand we do understand that his sin is no less than the sins of the CEOs. In fact, his sin is took out one person, but the sins of that CEO, the sins of those who are elected to run that company, not elected, the sins who are appointed for that company, was to eliminate thousands of Americans for a profit. And not only just a profit, but a large, large profit. Think about that, people, before you go ahead and do any judgments. And luckily, the American people have fallen on the right side of decency in this regards. Whereas they are not condoning the person who killed the person who unalived that person, that CEO, but they are using that unaliving. They're using it to point out exactly the evil within the private health insurance company, the for-profit insurance company. So let's be clear here. Those of us that are progressives, those of us that want, that have a soul, those of us that believe in people, those of us that have values, we shouldn't. Let me tell you what's going to happen on the right at this point in time. They're going to try to use Mr. Luigi, or rather Mr. Mangione. They're going to try to use Mr. Mangione as, look at what the liberals, the progressive do. What I'm saying at this point, my brothers and sisters, do not embrace the crime, but immediately make the switch. Immediately make the switch, those of you that are progressives, to the healthcare system and why it must go from nonprofit to a single payer healthcare for all system. This can be a catalyst to wake Americans up. This can be a catalyst to open people's minds to the evil that is our current healthcare industry. So, you know what they say, take lemons and make lemonade. So as soon as they bring that stuff about progressives went ahead and took out this guy, flip it around. Remember that these guys, while he did a wrong thing, these guys unalive Americans daily by the thousands. They unalive Americans daily by the thousands with their neglect. And we can stop it now. And how can we stop it? We can stop it by having Medicare for all. And you know what? Medicare for all is cheaper. And you know what? Medicare for all ensures that all those who need a particular care will get it. But we have to hold the bull by the horns now and do it. And that's why I said it is imperative right now that progressive media take the bull by the horn, because we're going to have Katie Tur and maybe Ali Velshi and the good reporters at MSNBC and a few at CNN. They're going to hold the bull and take it as far as they can. But they're not going to take it far enough, because they're not going to come out and say that the for-profit health insurance system is a cancer, that the for-profit healthcare system is a cancer. It's a killer. And that the perpetrators, the people who lead these organizations for profit over profit. After all, he was at an investor conference in New York. They were going to go ahead and talk about the greatness of the profits they're making. Do you know, it's over now, but all those commercials on TV trying to get you to buy Medicare Advantage, all of them on TV trying to get you to buy Medicare Advantage to give you lower care than you would get from the real thing. These guys have hoodwinked Americans into buying stuff that screws them. It is time, people. It is time. It is time. It is time. It is time. So, again, my word to you is to not buy into when they try to tell you, oh, you're being woke, or buy into trying to say, oh, you know what? It turns out is a progressive who did that violence, and try to string it on to what occurred on January 6th. You know they're going to try to do all that kind of crap. Don't buy into it. So here is a marching orders for progressives. Progressives, here are our marching orders. As soon as anyone brings up in a negative light what Mr. Luigi Mangione has done, which again, it's a wrong thing, immediately flip it to it was directed by the industry that has consistently and continuously harmed people, hurt people, unalived people. The narrative must be changed immediately. The narrative should not be on Mr. Thompson, who got $10 million a year for doing nothing. $10 million a year. That is your premiums going to pay that guy $10 million a year. Undeserved, entirely undeserved, because that is just welfare going into his pockets. He does nothing for it. He pays a bill, and he doesn't even pay the bill. He has a whole staff that pays a bill and a whole staff that cons Americans into the policies that he sells. Okay? So let's get with the program, folks. This is where we go on offense. I repeat, we go on offense. This is a perfect opportunity to go on offense. And don't expect help from the mainstream media, because, again, you know it's not coming. Well, anyway, I did a piece this morning that I want to play now. So let's go ahead and check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Top Democrats warn Trump to steal from federal programs. Yep, that is the idea. That is what you voted for. That is what progressive activists will try to mitigate, to correct for the grave mistake that this country made. One of the biggest searches on Google after the election was how to change your vote. Amazing, isn't it? Big question on Google, how to change your vote. Because after people made that gut decision, and for many, that sexist decision, and for others, that racist decision, even as they knew better, they sat and asked themselves, oh my God, what did I do? And Ramaswamy and and Musk, crypto kings, they are actually going to show you if progressive activists aren't successful in slowing things down to ensure that America is saved. And this isn't hyperbole what I'm talking about. But anyhow, it has already started. The media has already started its appeasement. You know, I wrote this piece yesterday. I was kind of, on Sunday mornings, I get up and I have to be in my studio at 8 sharp, because that is the time CNN starts with its first Sunday news show. Well, the first real Sunday news show. Then it goes to NBC and CBS, as well as Fox and the others. So I have all these screens up and I'm watching all these things. And today I'm trying to see, or yesterday on Sunday, I'm trying to see what's coming. How are these guys going to go ahead and talk the narrative? And I'm thinking, is it going to be appeasement like Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski did with Trump, and now they're trying to, justify it? Likewise, the New York Times, likewise, the LA Times, likewise, the Washington Post. Is it going to be appeasement like all the news medias seem to have been doing? The answer is yes. So look, I've been complaining about the mainstream media. This is the article that I wrote yesterday for my Substack and all the places. And it says as follows: I've been complaining about the mainstream media and its willful inability to challenge our oligarchy and degenerates like Donald Trump. I watched as Morning Joe's Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough parachuted into Mar-a-Lago to kiss the Trump's ring. And after the progressive dust-up, pretty much gave the excuse that, hey, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others are doing the same. So brother Joe Scarborough went on TV, and I like Joe. I love Mika. But it went on TV and said, look, others are doing it too, so why not do it? Yeah, but what you did was appeasing the criminal. You appeased the criminal. You gave the criminal stand-in. So really, Joe, that's what you thought you needed to do? With several papers like the Washington Post and LA Times changing their editorials to satisfy Trump, I'm not sure that puts Morning Joe in good company. If that was not bad enough, Morning Joe's producer in real time scolded ultra-conservative David Frum for criticizing the drunk and woman abuser Pete Hegseth. You know, the guy that's going to be defense secretary? And notice I said the guy that is going to be defense secretary. You know, Joni Ernst, after giving the impression like she has no intention of voting for Hegseth, said, I'm going to meet with him again. Well, you know what they did to Joni Ernst in Iowa? They put up a whole bunch of ads that said she's part of the establishment. She's part of the deep state. So they're scaring her into voting for Pete Hegseth. Is it going to work? We'll see. But I have a feeling it's going to work. What did he say? What did ultra-conservative David Frum say on a purported to be relatively liberal station, MSNBC, that got the MSNBC producers to give him a hard time, to criticize him in real time? Hey, you better watch what you're saying, Frum. All he said was the truth. He said about Hegseth, if you are too drunk for Fox News, you're very, very drunk indeed. After that commercial break, Mika also issued an apology calling the true statement flippant. She said what he said after Frum left the studio and after the break, she called it flippant. He told a truth and she called it flippant. Frum criticized the Morning Joe fiasco in an article he wrote for The Atlantic titled The Sound of Fear on Air. In other words, the takeover of the media by the oligarchy is complete. The sound of fear on air. It's like we are back in the Soviet Union, where Pravda was the national paper and could only say the things that the people in power would have them say. Remember Pravda? The article is more than a decade late, as the damage done by mainstream media fear began from the time it became a profit center, more so than the unambiguous truth teller. As I do every Sunday morning, I set up my computer screens to watch all the Sunday morning shows from the major news networks. I grabbed a few clips, but as I clipped more and more video clips, I got more and more upset. Why? The questioning of the president and his sycophants was nothing more than the platforming and the normalization of an alternate universe. No real pushback on the stream of lies, misinformation, and misrepresentations was addressed in any substantive fashion. One irked me specifically when Donald Trump said to Kristen Welker that his economy was greatest and that the inflation was low for Biden's first year and a half because of said economy. Because of Trump economy, he claims Biden's inflation in the first year and a half was low. That's BS, of course. Welker did not use the opportunity to tell Americans the truth. And the truth is so simple. And if she told the truth and the right wing got mad about it, that would even further enhance the truth, because we could have come back and said, here are the numbers. You're fighting about it, right wing. You're fighting about it, MAGA. but here are the numbers. And let me tell you what she should have said. The fact is that Trump's economy, as a continuation of the Obama economy before COVID-19, was no better than the Obama's economy because he passed no growth policies other than a tax cut that exploded the debt more than any president in American history. Again, Trump, we thought Reagan was bad on a proportionate basis, but Trump exploded the budget more so than any other American president in history. Inflation had not started going up with his mismanagement of the economy because COVID-19 killed demand. If you don't have demand, you can't have inflation. It kept inflation at bay. Again, if you have a pandemic, you don't have demand. If you don't have demand, you don't have a problem with people buying, and as such, prices either fall or stay the same. It's a mathematical truth. It's a mathematical fact. It's an economic fact. As soon as we emerged from COVID-19, his inflationary policies took hold, applying tariffs not to protect American industry, but to tax Americans to help pay for his tax cut with higher prices. Same thing that he's trying to do right now. I paused from my article. The tariff that he's talking about coincides with the inflation, with the tax cuts that he wants to give to rich people, coincides with also what Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk wants to do with respect to their efficiency program, right? Because their efficiency program actually leaves everything untouched. Not touched, I mean. They said even Social Security is on the cutting block. Medicare is on the cutting block. So all of you folks who believed him, you believe the liar. You know he lies. We have proven he lies. You have seen with your own eyes that he lies. But you allowed your isms to vote against the one whose isms you didn't like. And in the process, your Social Security, your Medicare, your disability, they are all in danger in order to give people that have made a windfall over the years. All these billionaires made that windfall on your back. They used you. While productivity, Americans are great workers. Americans are the best. When people tell you we work, brothers and sisters, we work. You go to any other country in the world and you don't see people work as much. They have more vacation time. They have more grievance time. They have more time for lane load. They have all this time in the world. They have all. Americans are chucking it, working hard. And at the same time, the billionaires are telling you you're not working enough because you don't know how bad it is that they're using you. You don't realize that you're fighting to get to work. You're not having mass transit. You having to go into the traffic. You having to do all these things. And then they tell you you're not working hard enough, or you're a slough, or too many of you are slough offs. I don't know too many slough offs in this country. They highlight the slough offs to get you pissed off because you are working so hard, and the one or two slough offs that they make an example out of, you then create a hate for what they are saying there. Brothers, we're being hoodwinked. So we are the hardest workers in the world, and they still want you to work more. Do you know that our productivity went through the roof? And we got very little of that. All that money went to the oligarchs, to those folks who have billions. A few callers, specifically Brian, he gets upset when I say the billionaires make the money on your back. That is not conjecture. That is not, I think the billionaires make money on your backs. That is a statement of fact. The abuse of the worker is what have made the billionaire class. That's a statement of fact. Provably, analytically, computationally, provably. This does not remove the reality that our inflation was caused primarily by greed, given the lack of shortages in most areas. In other words, even as Trump's tariffs were inflationary, and we have to be honest, Biden didn't remove most of them, or if any. That wasn't what caused that 9% inflation. That was corporate greed. Supply chain was a minor issue that was exploded. Price of oil and the war in Ukraine and Russia was not a real incident because there was never, ever an oil shortage. If you recall, even as the war went on, Saudi Arabia and Texas corporations colluded to cut 2 million barrels of oil off of the market to keep prices high and raise prices. That wasn't your government doing it. That wasn't Biden doing it. That was your plutocrats. That was your oligarchs, the people that continue to play with your minds, the people that continue to completely indoctrinate too many of us. Because Trump, the oligarchy and their sycophants' false narratives are never corrected on topic. I'm talking about the news media now. I'm back to my article. Because Trump, the oligarchy and their sycophants' false narratives are never corrected on topic after topic. Otherwise, good people can be maganized. I just created that word, folks. Are you maganized? Are you maganized? Well, the media have allowed their airwaves to be used by the plutocrats to maganize many of your brothers and sisters. And while more than 50% of the population has not yet fallen for the lies, the distribution of MAGA around the country, along with the progressive apathy, gives the Trumpists a winning hand, which is what occurred. After listening to the news this morning, every MAGA listener could rest assured that Donald Trump is a great president that accomplished much in the past, that Joe Biden screwed it all up, and that his return will bring better days. That's what I heard on the news on Sunday. Any MAGA person listening, that's what they've heard, because no correction was made when Donald Trump said I had the best economy. No correction was made when Donald Trump lied through his teeth and Merkel said nothing. And all these other news people said nothing. The average listener would believe that while they may not have voted for Trump, he will be okay, because he sounded sensible. They made him sound sensible. They sanitized Donald Trump. They sanitized that guy who holds women by their crutches. They sanitized that person who robbed them with a Trump University. They sanitized that guy who stole from his workers. They sanitized that guy who raped women. They sanitized that guy who didn't pay his taxes and inflated the price of his properties to get a loan and deflated the price of his properties for taxes. They sanitized him. They don't mention any of these things, but any other progressives come on TV. They're ready to challenge them, but they don't challenge the evil ones. Those who follow politics are left pulling hairs as the Trump normalization continues. The media did nothing about telling the truth about Biden's policies. Left to their own devices, they will and have started bringing back manufacturing. That is Biden's policies. These are Biden's policies. Left, if Trump leaves them alone, if Trump does absolutely nothing, manufacturing is back, economic security is back, infrastructure building is back, and much more. Of course, most of those successes will be realized during the Trump administration if Republican politicians can get over their propensity to cripple our economy. Let's remember a statement of verifiable fact. The economy always does better under Democratic presidents. Look it up. By over 50%, 2-point-something% average growth for one, 3-point-something% average growth. That's a differential that is huge in GDP. As the media continues its renormalization of Trump and his billionaires, their systemic destruction of our society could go unnoticed. The only avenue to get the attention of enough people who can form the necessary challenge and opposition to catastrophic changes to what this country represents is a decentralized progressive media. I repeat, the mainstream media has failed. The mainstream media is failing. The only avenue left to get the attention of enough people who can form the necessary challenge and opposition to catastrophic changes to what this country represents is a decentralized progressive media. And guess what? It is happening. It requires multi-platform, multimodal, old school and new school journalism. We see truthful work taking space. We see truthful work taking up space in Substack and other newsletters, TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, emails, radio, streaming TV, videos, blog, books, flyers, threads, blue sky, and so on. It isn't easy to shut it all down. They may get to shut down TikTok next year, but the others, the new and the old, will resurface. Many of us activist journalists, and I mean, many of us who form part of the independent progressive networks have already had Zooms and meetups about how we're going to do this. The resistance to any bad policy attempts is ready. So as soon as bad policy is executed, we're ready. The one thing we continue to discuss is the lack of funding. Major corporations and the non-profit foundations they bankroll have no desire to fund independent media. Of course, corporate funding is non-existent. This is why every independent media network seeks popular funding and affordable small levels of support from the people who listens and the people who share, etc., etc. Folks, let me tell you, it's on you. As Tom Hartman always say, it's on you now, because the mainstream media, we have shown, because they are owned by the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the corporatocracy. If you want real news disseminated, we don't cost what they cost, but we get the job done. So when you see KPFT goes out there and say, folks, call 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, to support the station, to support the truth. That's what we're talking about. The mainstream media has failed. All we've got left to save our democracy is the independent media. That's all we have to save the democracy, folks. Independent media. That's us. That's what we do. Anyway, folks, to make some corrections, it's a statement of fact. The economy does better under Democrats than under Republicans by over a percentage points, which means billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars better. And number 2, Donald Trump's average inflation rate was 1.9%, and Biden will leave at 5.2% average inflation rate. Now, let's be clear here. That inflation rate that Biden has was a direct result of the ineptitude of the way Donald Trump handled the COVID epidemic that gave the plutocrats a chance to create a false narrative of that it's a supply chain that caused 9% inflation. It wasn't the supply chain. And as I explained that, I explained the oil, I explained all those features there. You can choose to believe it or you can choose to be hoodwinked. We have some in our chat that choose to be hoodwinked. They don't believe it. They don't believe that once you increase the price of oil, that permeates through the entire economy. And we can understand why. Transporting vegetables, transporting goods, transporting everything. Bridge MCP is in the house. Love to see you, girl. Haven't seen you in a while. Yvette Avery Herod is in the house. Great to see you, Yvette, in the house. Jean Deigel is in the house. Great to see you. Patrick Magner is in the house. You guys came in kind of late today. Mike Cisak is in the house. Carl Cox is in the house. Carl Cox, get over it, my dear brother. If any, like I said before, if anybody needs an apology, you need to apologize to the chat room. I suggest you go listen to the tape of what it is, or look at the thing and see what you actually wrote in the chat. I suggest you go back in time and do that. But welcome aboard, Carl Cox, and good piece that you put in there as far as the murders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you better get over that privilege that you think you have, brother, and let's be real progressives instead of sitting back there waiting for an apology that will not come, because, again, the apology needed is yours to the audience. Yours to the audience. Just like CSEC and others owe a huge apology for much of the racism that they put here in the chat. They should be apologizing to quite a few people themselves. Anyway, Lee Grant says economic and political cycles aren't necessarily synchronous. It is never synchronous. But again, we have a pattern. And the pattern is under Democratic presidents, the economy does better. And we can understand why. There is a reason why. If you take a look at Keynesian economics and the type of economics practiced by Democrats in general, and by the way, I'm not talking all that I agree with all what these guys talk about, okay? Because, I mean, neoliberals, whether Democrat or Republican, to me are the same damn thing, all right? But the truth of the matter is Democrats are much better for the economy in every single respect, including the amount of spending. Donald Trump had the largest deficit, bar none. Donald Trump did. Okay? Deficits are larger under Republicans in the aggregate than under Democrats. The only Democrat that has had a budget surplus in the last 50 years was a Democrat. So let's get real. There's a fallacy and then there's the reality. And the right pushes the reality. They're wrong and strong. And the left is too damn timid too often to go out there and just stick it to the folks that are screwing the economy. Folks, like I said, we got to person up. It is time that we person up. Okay? It is time. And Carl Cox, feel free to go for good. You prove the privilege you think you deserve. My dear brother, that's your choice. That is your choice. C'est la vie. Madre mía, carajo. ¿Quién tú crees que eres? ¿Quién diablos tú crees que eres? Anyway, let's continue. So again, bye-bye. Let's continue, my dear brothers and sisters. You know, what we deal here, folks, is in truth. And all of us can make mistakes. All of us can say the wrong things. And the one thing we should be decent about is apologizing if we make a mistake. I have come to our chat when I have screwed up and apologized. Nobody is perfect. But I don't want anybody to think that you have some innate privilege to believe that you are owed an apology after you showed a very insensitive nature to somebody of some other identity, and think that you deserve an apology because you were insensitive and want to call your insensitivity your opinion. There are certain things that are opinions, but insensitivity or racism or sexism or machismo that affects women or gender affirmation, etc., that ain't opinion. Okay, let's be clear about that, brothers and sisters. I am here to defend everybody, absolutely everybody. Okay, sorry for that infuriation. I'm sorry for that infuriation. And listen to Lee Grant. And Brother Grant is a conservative MAGA brother, supporter of this show. And he mans himself up. I disagree with the brother a lot, but he mans himself up. Or look at me getting sexist. Sorry. He persons himself up. And if I call him out, he takes it. If he calls me out, I take it. You only call me out like 3 or 4 times, brother. Okay? You didn't get all that much, but I think I've got you beat on that, brother. All right, brother, let's go ahead and put what Brother Rudnin wants for the screen. And by the way, folks, feel free to give us a call, 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. All right, it says, it don't matter if we're wrong. We're right. Wrong and strong. That is right. Oh, wait a minute. I don't have that on the screen. Why don't I have that on the screen? There we go. Wait. Come on, Egberto. Rudnin had something important on the screen. Why don't you have that on the screen? Oh, that's because I didn't clip it on right. There we go. All right, brother Rudnin has it on the screen. If don't matter if we're wrong, we're right. And again, by the way, progressives can get into that modal as well. Okay? Progressives can get into that modal as well, where we are singularly focused on one thing, and then we don't see the error in our ways. I went to a meeting at Move to Amend, and this was during the period that I was getting the sexism extricated out of me. Extricated out of me. And I tell you, people just went ahead. Those women in this group, when I just got into the group, they had me for supper. Because there are things that I would say that I didn't realize that it was cloaked in such sexism. Because again, I'm from Latin America. Yo soy panameño, así que nosotros somos sexistas, right? I didn't realize it, but I learned. And when I learned, I was able to change. We got to do that, people. Anyway, I got a quick 4-minute stuff I want you guys to hear. This occurred on the show this morning with our brother Ray and our brother Bruce. Listen to what they had to say about woke. Let's go to brother Ray.
Hey, brother Egberto, you were spitting hot fire this morning. I really was enjoying the preaching, because basically you don't say anything that's, untrue. And what's sad about the mainstream media, people like for instance, somebody I looked up to at one point was Stephen A. Smith. But Stephen A. Smith identifies more, even though he says he votes Democrat, he identifies as an independent, but he said he identifies with some conservative values, and he regretted at some point even voting for a Democrat because of the woke crap that they put on and all of that. And, he talks like somebody that is basically, going the way of Joe Scarborough, saying, let's give conservatives a chance, but I know because he's a mainstream sportscaster, that's where a lot of his bread is buttered. And I just feel like it's disgusting. He had actually Jennifer Lewis was on his show, and she told everybody what she really felt. Now, if I had to share my sentiments on the matter of what's going on, Sister Jennifer Lewis, America's auntie, she said it. She hit all the nails on the head. That's my sentiment is.
And let me tell you about Smith. I sent him a tweet the other day because what he said was simply ridiculous. This woke thing, let me tell you, anytime I hear somebody said it's something, they're pushing this woke thing, I see a feeble mind, because it's amazing how they have allowed woke to seep into the mind as something negative. It's the same thing they did with the word liberal. They turn liberal into something negative when it is something positive. They try to turn woke into something negative when it's something positive. They turn DEI into something negative when it is something positive. That is how they function, and anybody who falls for it is feeble-minded. Because what happens is, you can see the good that comes out of wokeness. Simply means I'm awakened to things and how they affect humanity, how they affect people. I am awoke. There's nothing ever wrong with being awoken. And those that fall into the redefinition of these words, like I said, feeble-minded. And I say that with respect, but feeble-minded. You have to be able to stand up for values. And once you get off of that, feeble-minded. Let's go to brother Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Yeah, hey, Berto, good morning. I want to address the caller that talked about Stephen A. Smith and woke. As a child, and I'm 70 years old, so it was in the 60s, I remember going with my family to get hamburgers at a little tiny shack on Long Point Drive, and they had separate bathrooms, one marked colored. I'll take woke. I remember being at Herman Park playing as a kid and being told, don't go to that water fountain over there. You'll catch diseases. That's the colored water fountain. I'll take woke. I went to school with a kid that had childhood polio. He's one of my best friends. Spent his entire middle school years with a steel bar up his back with a brace under his neck. Had to turn his whole body to address you when he spoke to him. He lost the brace in high school and got better, but he would take woke. I had both mumps, chicken pox, and measles as a kid. If my parents had been offered a vaccine back then, I'm sure they would have preferred woke. woke is not a bad word. Thank you. Goodbye.
Boy, Bruce, thank you for those statements. And you know what? You keep putting your voice out there, all right? Thank you for that, Bruce. That was excellent. That was absolutely excellent. Was that boss or what? He almost turned it into a poem, man. And that actually got to my heart. We also had Patrick gave a called in as well. It just wasn't on the woke issue. Patrick called in earlier and spoke about what the reason was that the real USPS, why people so hate it. I have to do some thinking about that. Maybe that is one that we got to have some. Don't forget, we got a coffee date, Patrick Magner. That is one of the. I think we're going to have some coffee on that one because I am not sure if I wanted to go where you went this morning. So let's talk about that because I want to get more of your insight based on how you talk to your friends and so forth. I want to learn about that. So let's keep that as one of the topics for our coffee, brother Magner, because I after I got off the line with you, I said to myself, I don't want to jump on that bandwagon until I have sort of more corroboration. Anyway, folks, look, you guys are real good and active in there. And yes, Lee, I am lively today, not only because of what occurs, but I'm telling you why I am now pissed off. And I'm actually pissed off at the results of that case in New York, where the killer of that young man got off. I think he should have at least gotten not voluntary manslaughter, but involuntary manslaughter. And even if he got probation for it, involuntary manslaughter, and let me explain why. And this is a lot of people don't quite believe this. And I first use myself as an example. Let me go ahead and I hear you, Patrick, and that's what I want you to talk to me about. I really want you to talk to me about it. I really want to go into that in detail to see how you say it, right? But here's the thing. Daniel Penny held this guy in a chokehold, even as people were saying, "Hey, he's not moving," etc. Right? And he gets off. Okay. My thing isn't to penalize this guy and throw him in jail for 20 years. After all, maybe he was trying to do a good thing. Maybe he was playing soldier. But as a black man, as a Latino, as a Caribbean man, there's one thing that I have seen time and time again. And that is the value of life. And anybody who wants to be honest, all my white brothers and sisters in this chat and that are listening to me right now, you cannot tell me that you don't see the difference in treatment, not only by cops, but the average American citizen when they're doing certain things like what Daniel Penny did to hold down that guy. When the guy in Florida that got killed, Jamar, what's his name? That started the big movement. Trevor, you know who I'm talking about, Trevor Martin. Okay, you can't tell me that justice is ported out differently. And what these kinds of results do to people like me is it makes me feel unsafe. It puts it in the position that I would never do what that guy did. Yeah, you can bring Kyle Rittenhouse too, right? I could not do. I may want to help somebody, but I'm fearful to help somebody just because when the cop comes, who do they think is a perpetrator? Trayvon Martin, thank you. When the cop comes and he sees, we see it happens all the time. We see in, I think it was Detroit or one of these cities, where the woman calls the cops for help, and she ends up getting killed with a bullet in her eye. My white audience, my white brothers and sisters, I'm a professional. I'm an engineer. I'm a business owner. I'm an author. I have a media company. I write blogs. I write articles. I write for newspapers. I do all of that. And when I see a cop, there's a lump in my throat. When I have to act in society, where there's anything that I think could possibly be misconstrued to put me at harm with the law, I take the safe way out because I want no involvement with our justice system whatsoever. And like I said, I want no involvement with our criminal justice system. And these results expresses one of the reasons that I want no part of the criminal justice system. Because Daniel Penny at least deserved to have said, when you're dealing with another human being, you cannot be reckless. That guy didn't attack anybody. That guy had no gun. That guy had nothing other than acting because he was mentally unstable. And for that, he was killed. Now, I don't think for 1 minute that Daniel Penny wanted to kill that young man. I don't think he did. But that was the ultimate result. If I am driving a car, I don't want to kill somebody, but if I go ahead and run over that person, I will be charged with at least manslaughter and sometimes with reckless manslaughter. So to the audience that just sees it through one set of lens, I ask one favor of anybody listening to this today or on podcast. Try to see it through the eyes of a Caribbean, and I'm gonna plug my book, of an Afro-Latino Caribbean man. I tell a lot of these stories in this book, not only about criminality, but about just the way it's happened. And Mike Cisak, you show who you are consistently. Consistently. U.S. Paul Fleming says the U.S. average gasoline price dropped below $3 for the first time since 2021. Good piece of news, guys. All right, folks, we are coming close to the end of the show. We got 1 minute left. I want to ask all of you to consider becoming subscribers to our Substack. That is how we majorly fund most of what we do here, and we are way behind. We need 2,500 people. We're just at about 10% of that right now. So I want to ask you so kindly to please become supporters of our network. And how can you do that? Go to Substack or go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber. If you become a paid subscriber, you get to read all 5 of my books online. All 5 of my books, you can read all 5 of them. And any new book that I write, you also have full access to it. So why not do that today? Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Of course, there are many other ways that you can support the station with different contributions. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/support, politicsdoneright.com/support, and that has all the different ways in which you can support us. But the ideal way, which costs less than a coffee, is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. We need about 2,500. We've just cracked 10%. I'm hoping we can crack about close to 33% by the end of the year. I don't know if we can do that, but you can help us get there by becoming paid subscribers. I got to get out of here because I've got another interview right now. So look, folks, thank you all. I love you all, absolutely every one of you that are listening to the program. Please keep coming back because I tell you what, we, the independent media, more than ever is needed. And one message to to Lee Grant. Progressives don't say the media is fake news. We say the media is timid news. There's a difference. Timid news because they're scared of Trump coming into office. And that's what we're talking about. Anyway, love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.